high school, also known as the best 4 years of our lives. Don't worry, I'm just kidding. Has high school been the best 4 years? For me, it's just been very awkward. With all the adjustments, the stress, the drama, and the bad hair days, it would be wrong for me to preach about how I loved every moment of it. During these 4 years, we are all still in the midst of finding ourselves, which leaves everybody confused. Each one of us has entered as one person and will leave as a completely different one who is much stronger. Although we have all struggled during high school, whether it's been academically, emotionally, socially, mentally, or physically, each one of us has made it through with the help of New Hope Academy. Before coming here, I found myself lost. The traditional school environment, though appropriate for many, was not the right fit for me. What I really needed at the time was help being pulled forward. I was going through a difficult season of my life, visiting job 3 or 4 times a week, and trying to balance this with my schoolwork became very difficult, not to mention the fact that I felt like a failure for needing assistance. My parents, who have always had a way of knowing what was best for me, knew that a change was needed, but I was stubborn and pretty mean. I might even still have the persuasive piece I wrote trying to convince them that I didn't need to come to NHA. That being said, I came unwillingly because I didn't understand why I couldn't function in what is considered to be the societal norm in terms of high school education. I thought I was the problem. After switching to NHA, I realized that all I needed was a different educational environment. Thank you, Mom and Dad, as well as the rest of my family and my best friend Eliza, for being equally as stubborn as I was and for standing by me during this time. Despite my initial resistance, New Hope began to recognize and work with my needs almost intuitively, no questions asked. This non-traditional atmosphere not only aided me academically, it allowed me to grow mentally and emotionally, and not to mention physically with Monica's renowned yoga classes. I was able to seek the treatment I needed to overcome anxiety, depression, and OCD without falling behind in my schoolwork. I was able to take classes appropriate to my skill levels instead of being held back for my disabilities. Graduates, I have found that this tends to be true for all of us. We have all received personalized instruction which highlighted our individuality and focused on our positive traits rather than our weaknesses. At New Hope, it's not a question of whether things can be done, it is a matter of how we're going to do them and how soon we can see the results. Although we are also different, we are similar in that we all face obstacles. However, once we find a way around these obstacles, we are able to see our success in the distance. Struggles are the means we need to succeed because without experiencing negativity, people are unable to recognize positivity. By experiencing sadness, people learn to appreciate happiness, and they then do more to create and capture it. Through our ups and downs, we have all been able to learn from each other. Although we're not all considered to be best friends, we have all depended on one another and helped each other. We have all grown on one common ground, New Hope Academy. I think I speak for all of us when I express my true appreciation for every single member of the New Hope faculty, beginning with Kathy Ganna. I will always admire her spirit and her will to help others. I know for certain that none of our lives would be the same without Kathy's courage and generosity. In addition, Kathy is the reason I have a mile-long list of teachers that I need to thank today. To the administrators, George, Dave, Tiffany, Mary, Monica, Cecilia, and everybody else, all up here, it is hard to know where to begin. This school would be absolute chaos without all of you there, keeping everyone in line. Speaking of which, Kathy L., it may seem strange that the word chaos brought me to you in this speech, but I promise I have a valid reason. Throughout my time at NHA, you consistently took me under your wing during my most chaotic moments. For that, you are a very brave soul. From writing a simple reading response to the SATs to college application essays, you were always the one I chose to go to. Thank you. I still hear your calming voice in my head every time I write, saying things like, it's only a rough draft and this may sound English teachery. So Kathy L., thank you. With your guidance, I have done more this year than I've ever dreamt I'd be able to do. Thank you. I came to school in September with a long list of portfolio requirements for my college applications. Try to guess how many of those requirements I hadn't finished at the time. 0. With my limited drawing experience I had to offer, aka none, I presented you with a huge obstacle to tackle. I cannot thank you all enough for helping me, not only with my portfolio, but with my confidence. Now, I know I could say many things about every teacher here individually, but at the risk of keeping us here all night, I'm going to take just one more moment and thank you all as a whole. Personally, I know that I would never have made it to the place I am today without the continued support of the New Hope family. So as we continue to look back at the past, recognize the present, and anticipate the future, we are just minutes away from graduating, from celebrating with our families and friends, and from escaping the powerful rain of high school. I know that all of us are anxious to get out of here. Our brains are going in 1,000 different directions, and most of you probably don't even hear me speaking, thank God. But let's take a second to live in this moment, appreciate and remember the feelings you're experiencing right now, because this is a group experience. Remember the faces around you, and whether you choose to admit it or not, these faces are what brought you here to this day and to this moment. As cliche as this sounds, these next few moments are what mark the end of a significant phase in our lives and the beginning of the next. The next few years will be the most important. Our choices now will become the building blocks and the foundation of our futures. The end of high school is only the end of high school. Although it is a big accomplishment, it's not the best thing that we will do in our lives, but it is what opens the door to the stages we have ahead of us. This graduation unlocks our futures. So no matter what path we are following after we leave this building, we have it in us to succeed. All of us are our own inspirations. We are the only ones who can influence and motivate ourselves enough to accomplish our dreams. The lessons that New Hope has provided us will follow us into the real world. Pun intended. NHA has drilled the importance of respect, responsibility, energy, love, and individuality into our brains. Without demonstrating these key attributes to others, we cannot expect to receive them ourselves. No matter what field we are headed to, our generation can be considered the leaders of the future. Although not all of us will necessarily be found making executive decisions on a national or global scale, we will still be influencing the lives of others, which is pretty magical. As humans, we also have the power to be influenced by others. This is where it gets tricky. Everyone is pure at heart, but people often find themselves adapting and compromising their potential in order to fit in. We did this when we started high school, almost by means of survival. As we move forward, however, our survival depends on our ability to make our own choices. Sometimes we transform for the better and sometimes for the worse, but each time we will learn. All of my congratulations go out to the NHA graduating class of 2012. Each of us has a will to succeed and the creativity to make a difference, which are things that should not be wasted. Do what you love and you'll love what you do. This positive energy will be absorbed by everybody around you. All of this brings me to my last thoughts. As we move on to do the things we choose to do in our lives, there will always be barriers. There will always be people trying to bring us down. Instead of focusing on these things, we need to focus on the positives. We need to associate ourselves with people who are more uplifting. We need people who accept us for the way that we were, the way that we are, and the way that we will be. In the end, the one thing that I've realized throughout my high school adventure is that it's something that will stay in my mind forever. Although we will always be susceptible to outside influences, we have learned from our journeys that we're capable of more than we know. This leaves us with two choices as we walk out those doors. We can either let the world change us, or we can change the world.